Hydreigon is one of the greatest Pokemon designs ever. A visually striking pseudo-legendary that stands tall among the rest as truly unique. But Hydreigon has never been fantastic competitively. This Pokemon is not terrible by any means, it just tends to be stuck in a competitive limbo. Too powerful for the lower tiers, but not good enough for the higher tiers. So imagine my shock when I saw that a Hydreigon team managed to reach #1 in the world on the Gen 9 OU ladder. The player who built this team was Storm Zone, and they might just have changed the community's opinion on Hydreigon overnight. This was really surprising to see. I mean, Hydreigon was struggling to find its footing even back when it came out in Gen 5. For it to succeed to this extent in Gen 9, where it has so much more competition and is falling behind in an increasingly power-crept franchise, is pretty incredible. Why don't we take a look at Hydreigon's struggles and hardships, and how it has finally found a place to exist on this brilliant, #1 ranked Gen 9 team. Hydreigon debuted in Gen 5, where it seemed at the time like a promising new rising star. It has a Dark Dragon typing, which was fresh for the time, and is quite a good one offensively. It has good, well-rounded stats with a high special attack of 125 and everything else just being really solid. Its ability Levitate is just one of those abilities you can never go wrong with. Ground immunity, and immunity to being hit by spikes and other such things. Levitate is always good. Plus, its offensive move pool is awesome. It has a lot of the typical options you can expect from a dragon type like Draco Meteor and coverage like Fire Blast, but also it has Stab, Dark Pulse, Earth Power, which is actually not very common for special attacking dragon types to get as coverage. And it even has U-Turn for some proactive pivoting, another less common option on this sort of Pokemon. But a problem that Hydreigon has always suffered from is its speed stat. 98 base speed is not terrible. It's actually fairly fast, but what sucks about Hydreigon is that it is just slower than base 100 and therefore is outran by a significant portion of the metagame. This is an unfortunate speed tier to be in, and with Dragon also being a crowded type, it's just really common to be outsped and forced out by another Dragon, since Dragon is weak to itself. Adversaries like Garchomp, Salamence, and most notably of all Latios were problematic. Latios was the main adversary for Hydreigon, not only because it outran and threatened it in battles, but was generally a similar and superior Pokemon, with higher stats, higher speed, the important option of Trick, Calm Mind, and other such superior qualities. Competing with Latios is tough when Latios is the literal best Pokemon in Gen 5 OU. Not to mention OU staples like Keldeo and Alakazam, and Thunderous Therian all also outrun and threaten Hydreigon with big damage. It's a bit difficult to function as a fast special attacker when that speed tier is so crowded and you are just below many of your contemporaries' Hydreigon. Sometimes an incredibly low amount of actual speed can make all the difference. And this 98 base speed is just an unfortunate place to be left at. Now, Hydreigon had all these problems to begin with in its first ever generation, but at least it was a dragon type, and dragon types ran the world. Draco Meteor was an incredibly spammable move that did good damage to just about everything. But then in the very next generation, the fairy type was brought into existence to curb the power of the dragon type. And fairy is of course immune to dragon type attacks and also super effective against dragon. The addition of the fairy type was of course a huge disaster for Hydreigon, more than it was for other dragons, because Hydreigon is a dark dragon type and is ×4 weak to fairy. Not to mention fairy also resists dark, the other stab type of Hydreigon. Fairy typing being introduced was a massive problem for Hydreigon. Plus that same speed benchmark that was so important in Gen 5 remained important pretty much in every single generation. So Hydreigon has always just been in that middling power level. It's one of those Pokemon that seems to have a bunch of incredible things going for it, but just circumstantially finds itself struggling to achieve viability. Now, interestingly, Hydreigon has received some buffs over the years. Hydreigon received the new option of Nasty Plot in Gen 8, which was a fantastic buff, allowing it to boost its special attack. And this is an option that other dragon types often don't get. Many of them get Calm Mind, but not Nasty Plot, for the more direct special attack boost. Pretty incredible new option. And in Generation 9, Hydreigon also received the new option of Stealth Rock, which is pretty massive. Stealth Rock is a unique option as well on a Dragon-type special attacker of Hydreigon's category. This could allow Hydreigon to be like a bit of a special version of Garchomp. Garchomp was always good for its combination of Stealth Rock setting and offensive presence. Hydreigon can do that on the special attacking side now with Stealth Rock up its sleeve. And I do recall seeing people experiment with these options in Gen 9. A Nasty Plot Hydreigon set with Terastallization has some merit. Tera Steel is always good on Pokemon with Levitate because they have the inherent ground immunity to erase that factor of ground weakness on a Steel type. And also, becoming a Steel type allows you to resist pretty much every incoming thing that would otherwise threaten you except for fighting type attacks. Hydreigon could even use Nasty Plot and Substitute in conjunction for further setup sweep opportunities. Offensive teams also use the Stealth Rock option quite a bit. I saw this throughout Gen 9's history here and there. But I think what's really interesting about this team from Storm Zone that hit number 1 is that the Hydreigon on this team is actually not even using any of its new buffed options. It's just using good old-fashioned Hydreigon with all the options it used to have. This is a Choice Specs Hydreigon running Draco Meteor, Flash Cannon, Earth Power, Dark Pulse. All options that it just had in Gen 5. You'd think that a Hydreigon team in Gen 9 is using some of its newer options, but no. This is just Hydreigon as it was when it came into existence. Using Hydreigon as just a regular special attacking dragon type here seems a little odd. When Dragapult is right there and available to use, Dragapult tends to be a superior Choice Specs dragon type. Much faster, much better generally. Raging Bolt also exists and can run Photosynthesis sets and be a great bulky dragon type special attacker. And Latios is not what it once was, but Latios still has fringe use in Gen 9 OU2 and still has many of the advantages it had back in Gen 5 over Hydreigon. Higher speed, higher special attack, the breaking option of Luster, Purge, etc. So doesn't it seem strange to use Hydreigon for this of all things, without even using any of its fancy new options? Well folks, all of those Pokemon I just listed, Dragapult, Latios, and Raging Bolt, all suffer from a problem. That is that they can't take Ghost type attacks very well. Latios and Dragapult are weak to Ghost, and Raging Bolt is neutral to Ghost, can't exactly switch in on it very well. Hydreigon, on the other hand, is a Dark type, meaning it is resistant to Ghost. And if you look at the rest of the team, it kind of needs something that resists Ghost. Everything else is susceptible to Ghost, especially Pecharunt, who's weak to it. Without any sort of Ghost resistance, this team would get eaten alive by a simple Goldengo clicking Shadow Ball. But Hydreigon is able to switch in on a Goldengo's Shadow Ball and apply offensive pressure from there, as well as switch in on other Shadow Ball users. This complements the rest of the team defensively while also filling the role of a special attacking dragon wall breaker. Now you could use Darkrai for a similar reason, Darkrai being a ghost-resistant dark type special attacker, but Hydreigon does have some merit over Darkrai. Stab a Draco Meteor is a big deal. Yes, fairies exist, and yes, they are prevalent and can be completely immune to it, but it's still a powerful move. Dragapult still uses it, Raging Bolt still uses it, still a good move that hits many things neutrally for high power and good damage. So access to this is just a great special attack to have. Hydreigon's useful option of Earth Power is also really excellent, hitting the Steel types that might try to come in on Draco Meteor, generally being amazing coverage, ground such a good type, coverage-wise. And Hydreigon also has Flash Cannon to hit Fairy types coming in. This has always been one of its strongest coverage options for that crucial super effective damage against the common Fairy switch-in. And what's also great about Hydreigon is its ability to levitate, paired with the newfound Gen 9 phenomenon where a Pokemon can transform into a different type. I mentioned before the benefits of Tera Steel on a levitating Pokemon, just a great thing to do defensively to Tera Steel and be immune to ground. The set I mentioned used Nasty Plot and Substitute as setup opportunity, but even without Nasty Plot and Substitute, just a normal old Hydreigon with choice specs, this Tera Steel option stonewalls a bunch of things instantly and can really patch up other bad matchups. Dragapult and Raging Bolt and Darkrai do not have Levitate and therefore cannot utilize Tera Steel as effectively as Hydreigon can. For starters, Kyurem is destroyed by a simple Hydreigon using Tera Steel, as you become completely immune to their Earth Power coverage and resistant to their Ice stab. Many common ground types like Clodsire, who relies on Earthquake for damage and Toxic to apply poison, is now stonewalled by Hydreigon, and Clodsire is a special wall aiming to defeat special attackers. Now, it cannot touch a special attacker. That's a problem for them. A Tera Steel Hydreigon destroys one of the most popular special walls in the game instantaneously. The same is true against Gliscor, who relies on Earthquake and Toxic to pressure things. Gliscor is one of the most popular Pokemon in the metagame. It's everywhere, and Hydreigon's Tera Steel really flips the script on a Gliscor and makes them frightened of you immediately. And just having Levitate, whether you Tera or not, makes you nice against Ting Lu, who also relies heavily on Earthquake. I think that on top of all this synergy with the team, it's also worth noting that Hydreigon's Dark Dragon typing is a bit better against King Gambit than Latios or Dragapult, who are threatened by King Gambit super effectively, whereas Hydreigon resists Dark and can threaten King Gambit directly with Earth power. This is significant since King Gambit is such a common presence. I think that Hydreigon is also supported very well by Tinkaton as a partner. Think about it. Hydreigon is weak to Ice, Fairy, Dragon, and Fighting. Tinkaton is okay against all these types. In fact, it is immune to Dragon, resistant to Ice, and resistant to Fairy. This is incredible support for Hydreigon with nice easy switch-ins against many of the common types threatening it. You're also at least neutral to Fighting, so you can take a hit, but Pecharunt is there for Fighting immunity if you really need it. The Tinkaton is also the Stealth Rock set. I mean, Hydreigon would not need to run Stealth Rock. Tinkaton has it right there. And I think it's also clear to see how Pecharunt and Hydreigon support each other. Pecharunt, as I just mentioned, is immune to fighting type attacks that threaten Hydreigon, but Hydreigon is also resistant to dark type attacks and immune to psychic type attacks that threaten Pecharunt. It's also immune to ground type attacks that threaten Pecharunt. For goodness sake, Hydreigon and Pecharunt plus Tinkaton are an unbelievable trio. They are great friends that support each other in tough times and good times. What an unbelievable group of three, filling each other's gaps. Ogerpon is also here, probably the most novel choice on the team besides the Hydreigon. Base form Ogerpon is not usually that common. Ogerpon Wellspring is the most common one, but base form Ogerpon is a cool fella that I quite enjoy. It has an item slot, so you can choose to run different held items on it than the masks, and Choice Band is what they went with here. Ogerpon is a mono grass type with the ability Defiant, and Defiant can be cool. It raises attack by 2 if you are ever the subject of a stat lowering, which effectively means it's resistant to being intimidated. It can be buffed by Defog. If they click Defog, you can switch in and gain a +2 attack boost. Also, Sticky Web grants it a +2 attack boost. What's also cool about Ogerpon is when it terastallizes, it gains a speed boost. It has the Embody aspect. It can only Terra Grass, but upon doing so, it will gain a speed boost. So you can kind of have Choice Band and Choice Scarf at the same time with this fella and use it as backup speed control. And the game plan of the team is pretty simple, really. It's built around these two wall breakers, Ogerpon being the physical wall breaker and Hydreigon being the special wall breaker. Pecharunt is a defensive pivot. It walls much of the metagame and can use Parting Shot to exit the field and safely switch in to these powerful offensive wall breakers in advantageous positions and shoot off their incredibly powerful stab moves. Alamamola does the same thing. As a water type with Regenerator and Flip Turn, Flip Turn allows it to pivot out into the valued wall breakers in advantageous positions and click buttons. And the use of Hydreigon here is simple, but effective. It's largely just being used because its typing rounds out the team, and it happens to synergize defensively to form a core with much of the other Pokemon here. Many of these Pokemon invite certain types to be used, and then there's always a switch in for those types. It's just good team building. The Alamomolo is also specially defensive with Assault Vest as a hard special wall that can also use Mirror Coat to reflect back special damage to round out the team in that sense. Pecharunt has a massive defense stat, of course, and Alamomola picks up the slack on the special defense side. A well-balanced team all around. And I love the fact that the use of Hydreigon is simple here, but it fits perfectly. Let's take a look at the team in action on the high ladder, folks, against some formidable opponents in high-stakes battles. Look at this opponent here with a very typical meta Gen 9 team featuring Gholdengo, Darkrai, Clefable, Tinglu, Dragonite, and Pecharunt. Let's see how our favorite Hydreigon gamer fares against this formidable opponent. Leading off with the Ogerpon with a positive matchup against the Tinglu right off the bat, going to prevent them from making any hazards and force in Pecharunt, who has taken 20%. Tinkaton switches in cleanly against Malignant Chain, completely immune. Beautiful position for Tinkaton. Goes for Encore though. Doesn't make any progress with Stealth Rock as the enemy predicts. Whoa, we've attacked into the Tinglu, gotten the red card, preserving the balloon on the Tinkaton, and now here's Pecharunt clicking Malignant Chain to poison the enemy Tinglu and confuse them. They have gotten Stealth Rock through, but they are poisoned for the remainder of the game. I think Pecharunt can be happy about that one. In comes the Mola to wall the Darkrai. The Mola, remember, has a Assault Vest. Gonna switch out and achieve regenerative value. Oh dear. Tinkaton has lost its balloon, but that's okay. It's shrugged off the knockoff completely and has stolen Darkrai's heavy-duty boots. That's actually a pretty damn incredible interaction. Ice Hammer from Tinkaton. I didn't even realize it had. That's an incredible option to just smack Dragonite right there. Did Tinkaton outrun Dragonite? Am I crazy? I didn't realize that was the case. That was crazy. Goodness me. Alright, things are occurring. Mola is in, flip turning in the face of Clefable. Tinkaton is back, and Gigaton Hammer will surely destroy that Clefable unless it terastallizes. That's hefty damage also against Pecharunt. Can we give Tinkaton some respect for being incredible? Hydreigon is now in a commanding position and goes for the Flash Cannon read on the Clefable entry. Beautiful. Clefable is down. The Fairy type is down. Now Draco Meteor is going to be spammable from Hydreigon with no downside. Unbelievable. Tinkaton in and shrugging off Dark Pulse, but does actually get 2 hit. Not really shrugging it off when you're facing the Void afterwards. That's alright though. Here is Ogerpon activating its Embody aspect for the speed and pivoting out against the Darkrai, utilizing a once per game Tera there to force out Darkrai. Hope it's worth it. Draco Meteor, of course, completely impossible to switch into here, and Tinglu will drop to 2 hits. Very cool stuff. That Flash Cannon scenario enabled this Hydreigon to be an incredibly frightening foe in this end game. Enemy Pecharunt happens to be Nasty Plot, can you believe it? But Hydreigon switches in after Pecharunt sacrifices its own self, and Earth Power can be spammed, I suppose, in this end game to hit absolutely everything remaining. Ice Beam does drop Hydreigon, but we can say that Hydreigon did incredible work there, eliminating multiple Pokemon in this battle. Showing its worth. I mean, that was a great showcase of Hydreigon's potential. Ogerpon, by the way, keeps the Embody aspect after terastallizing and switching out, if you weren't aware. It still has the speed boost, and with that speed boost, a simple couple of Ivy Cudgels would make quick work of that Gholdengo, and if the Darkrai was foolish enough to switch in, it would have been yesterday's Darkrai. What a beautiful showcase of the Hydreigon in action, doing its job perfectly, luring in that Clefable, eliminating it, and then having no walls in the face of its Draco Meteor any longer. That was spectacular. And here we have another matchup against a much more aggressive team with Volcanion on it and Dio Speed and Iron Valiant. Let's take a look at how this one plays out. Will Hydreigon achieve unbelievable fortitude? I think that Ogerpon should exit against Volcanion. That seems like a struggle. Yes, it does U-turn out, but momentum is in our hero's favor here. Storm Zone as the insanely good Hydreigon entry point shows itself. The Earth Power is a great call, hitting many of the possible switch-ins, dealing considerable damage to Iron Treads. In comes Dragonite, knowing that Hydreigon is locked in via Choice Specs damage to turn the tables, but you can be happy with making that a bit of progress against Iron Treads for certain. Pecharunt comes in against the Dragonite, probably expecting something like extreme speed or other such things. And the Mola switches in against a Volcanion, easily shrugging off a Steam Eruption. This Assault Vest Mola is keeping the world together. Goes for a Mirror Coat that fails. Flip Turn would have been great initiative, but it's tough to click against a Water Absorb Pokemon, of course. And Tinkaton comes in against the Pecharunt, hoping for Malignant Chain, but it was parting shot. Here is Iron Treads, trying to pop the balloon of that Tinkaton. In comes Great Tusk, though, on a Rapid Spin, which I suppose is the only option for Iron Treads to use against Tinkaton to pop the balloon. Iron Treads exits, and in comes Petron taking a massive headlong rush. I feel as if Storm Zone is really in control of the game here, forcing switches and maintaining momentum and initiative. Ice Spinner breaks Dragonite's multi-scale and does a hefty amount. Dragon Tail comes out from Dragonite. That's an interesting option to shuffle fellas around. And Dragonite has Roost, a bulkier Dragonite set, evidently. But Flip Turn will keep the momentum going and pivot. Hydreigon in a pretty excellent position here to just shoot off a Draco Meteor. And wouldn't you know it, Dragonite is gone into the void. He's done. Dragonite is finished. Iron Valiant switches in and utilizes its booster energy for the first and only time. Forcing out Hydreigon, of course, but Pecharunt can switch in, and well, a knockoff would be a problem. And Tera Dark knockoff might just be coming down. Whoa, our hero here has Tera Ghosted. What the heck was that for? Maybe for more damage on Shadow Ball, not expecting Iron Valiant to Tera Dark necessarily. Wanted to get the KO. But doesn't help you out defensively. Still weak, of course, to Dark. That was a wasted Tera from our protagonist here. Can you come back from this? Play Rough will do a decent amount to this Iron Valiant. And we are switching Great Tusk to sacrifice it. This looks problematic. This Iron Valiant is in a chief position to do harm. That's no good. Oh, Aqua Jet! After the defense drop, will do the final remaining bit of HP. That was actually quite a smart sack then to proc the defense drop and get Aqua Jet range going. That was cool. You've saved yourself from the terrible situation, Storm Zone. Flip Turn is an easy switch out to the Ogerpon, which is threatening the entire Earth. Knockoff selected to hit Pecharunt coming in, and also everything else. A good middle ground to click that hits all. Can Pecharunt even survive this? No. No, it cannot. That's crazy. Went to Pecharunt to certain death. No Tera to save you. Here's Dio Speed. Psycho boosting the fella, and that does KO. And that's quite a lot of damage. Was that Choice Specs Dio Speed? No, Life Orb it is. In comes Hydreigon, not worried about coverage because of the -2 special attack, and in prime position for a big Dark Pulse, which is going to quite easily 2-hit KO Volcanion. Boy, has Hydreigon got an incredible value this battle. Bringing the Iron Treads near death, KOing Dragonite and KOing the Volk there. Could have even dodged a Focus Blast there, Focus Blast being the only thing to hit, but not worried about sacrificing self when Tinkaton can easily clean this up with a simple Gigaton Hammer, probably KOing from here, I would imagine. Indeed. Well, at critical hit, that might have mattered. Probably not. I think Gigaton was enough to KO a Deoxys Speed. Another very well-piloted game there. A bit awkward with the Pecharunt Tera, but the unforeseen Tera Dark was probably not anticipated. Still, very well handled by our gamer here, and very good Hydreigon I'm getting kind of sold on Hydreigon, aren't you folks? It's solid. It lures things in. It gets good value. It synergizes well with the Pecharunt and the Mola. And the typing rounds the team out. In action, it's quite an effective Pokemon. Absolutely so. And one final battle commentary, if you'll indulge me, folks. I love to watch high-level games with funny teams. It's one of life's joys, I think. Up against a Bronzong Enamorous Gaming. Quite a novel team from opponent here, but the Bronzong bring. Let's see how this one plays out. Why don't we? Ceruledge lead into the Tinkaton. That can't be a good lead matchup. Indeed, exiting to Hydreigon, and another point in Hydreigon's favor. Great against Ceruledge, huh? Resists both of its stabs and forces it out. Goes for the Dark Pulse, and surely Samurott Hisuian is also not great into Hydreigon? Yep, it would appear to completely resist both of its stabs. And Pecharunt just comes in to deny. That was actually... Can I pause for a moment? That was smart. Because by Rocky Helmet chipping the Samurott, the Ceaseless Edge seems to have not made spikes. I did not know about that interaction until just this moment. Can I be honest with you? I did not know that if Ceaseless Edge attacks into a helmet and they KO themselves, that spikes will not happen. That's unbelievable technology. That's incredible. Very well done. In comes, once again, the Hydreigon against the Ceruledge to outrun it and threaten it with Dark Pulse and resist all of its moves. And plus a dodged Poltergeist, fortunately. Dark Pulse incredibly spammable in the matchup. There are resists, but the Specs Dark Pulse damage adds up. as you can see, this Assault Vest Molar completely destroys that Enamorus, walling it very easily. Tinkaton is about to KO Enamorus, unless I'm insane. No, it made Stealth Rock. Even better, perhaps. Even better. The Gigaton Hammer doing a hefty 43 to Tusker. Petrarant amazingly able to live a headlong rush on the way in. Goodness. Bit of Rocky Helmet chip and also denying rapid spin, crucially. That was spin blocking right there. And here is Ogapom in prime real estate to click Ivy Cudgel a bunch of times. Weak armor has occurred. That's a bit of a problem. But Mola can switch in. And goodness gracious, you can Aqua Jet. Why is Aqua Jet so useful randomly? That seems like filler on the AV Alama Mola. But this has saved Storm Zone's life here multiple times over with that little Aqua Jet. What a difference that makes. The Bronzong is iron defensing up as Tinkaton hits the field. And Encore has ruined Bronzong's career before it even began. Bianzhong, go back to ancient history, buddy. And Hydreigon is in on Tusker, and enemy just forfeits. And let's look at why they forfeited. Great Tusk is literally slower than Hydreigon. Kyurem is slower than Hydreigon. And Bronzong is slower than Hydreigon. The only Pokemon that can outrun Hydreigon right now, clicking Dark Pulse, is Enamorus, who is about to get destroyed by Stealth Rock. So this Hydreigon being in here just represents total doom for opponent. And the Enamorus could live on like 3%, but then simply go at Mola, click Aqua Jet, flip turn to Hydreigon, and rinse repeat. I'm realizing, by the way, in this moment, that Hydreigon's speed tier is, for the first time ever, kind of good. Because it outruns Great Tusk and Kyurem, who are both really common, and not quite base 100. So Hydreigon being base 98 and outrunning these two is actually relevant here. Usually a bad speed tier that Hydreigon has, but now with two common Pokemon that have a slightly lower speed than Kyurem, it is feeling a bit more useful speed-wise, perhaps. How smart. I view team building in Pokemon as a sort of art form, a balancing act wherein you want to squeeze in as much synergy as possible. And it's always fun when a cool Pokemon like Hydreigon presents itself as the solution to your problems. It has everything you need to fill the gaps of this team. It has Ghost Resistance, Levitation with Terra Steel for certain bad matchups, just enough speed to outrun important Pokemon, and also the crucial options of Flash Cannon and Earth Power for luring. The use of Hydreigon here is great and simple, not even utilizing any of its newer options that perhaps people were emphasizing in the past. Just good old-fashioned Hydreigon does the trick on this particular team. And I can see how this hit rank 1. The team is not gimmicky, it's not doing anything particularly flashy, it's just solid. And sometimes solid teams can use strange Pokemon because of smart team building and well-considered synergy. What did you think of this team, folks? And what do you think of Hydreigon in Gen 9 OU? Do you think it might be better than we thought? Or do you think this is a one-off scenario where it happens to fit on this team but might not fit on most other teams? Let me know what you think down below in the comments, folks. And as always, thank you very much for watching.